Why did he come home so drunk? Because he's under the influence of an evil spirit. He's sick. This is called an illness of intelligence. So what's his fault? He's just sick. Just put him to bed. Like someone who has caught the flu. Would you tell them, you caught the flu again? Go to bed. You tuck them in, start taking care of them. It's the same here. The person is simply ill. But if you want, I'll tell you the truth about life now. The most amazing thing is that when a person cheats, they are also sick. It's also an illness of intelligence. One doesn't perceive reality clearly. There are signs. I will tell you about them. The first sign, a man stops feeling a deep connection to his children. A man lives with his wife and children. These are close people to him. When he starts cheating, this deep feeling for the children disappears. It's gone. The deep feeling towards his wife also disappears. He doesn't feel they are close to him anymore. As a result, his life philosophy also changes. Because many people base their philosophy not on sacred scriptures, but on their own feelings. The Vedas say that when a person bases their philosophy on their feelings, it indicates a low level of personal development. Philosophy should be based on the statements of wise people, which means you are living a conscious life. Meaning you need to be able to distinguish, this is the truth and what I'm feeling right now might not be the truth. This is the correct understanding of things. But less developed people base their philosophy on their feelings. I no longer feel as close to my wife and children as before, which means they are not so dear to me now. I have unconditional love for another woman, but towards my wife and children I feel less love. It's not less love, you're just sick. You've just forgotten the feeling you had before. The reason is your action. The Vedas say that modern civilization doesn't place much importance on actions. Because of this, we suffer greatly. Now, we don't understand one of the main assertions of ancient knowledge, which says, action is stronger than the individual. The individual is stronger than the action. Why did people fear cheating? They simply feared it. A person was terrified, more afraid than death, to cheat. Why? Because they feared their destiny would change. They didn't know what the future held after such an act. But we don't care. A woman cheated, shook it off, and got on with it. Nothing has changed. And what has changed? Nothing has changed. Everything is okay. It's all the same. Because a person perceives oneself as a body, as a physical body. We don't see ourselves as a subtle body, as destiny. We lack the understanding that there is such a thing as fate. We just perceive ourselves superficially. I am the same as I used to be. Dr. Torsunov says, something will change, but everything's the same. From the perspective of the physical body, nothing has changed. Yes, it's all the same. But if we speak from the perspective of the subtle body, it's not the same anymore. If a woman cheats on her husband, she can't be as honest as before. Can she come and say that she has cheated? No. She doesn't have the same feelings for her loved ones as before. She can't fulfill her duties as she used to. She can no longer plan her future life with the people she lives with. A lot has changed after this act. It's like ships that pass in the night. In other words, fate has turned aside, and you could have not done it. You could have not made that choice, not committed it. What made you do it? Ignorance. Why did you commit this act? Because you don't know what will happen next. That's all. We don't know that when people engage in intimacy, they exchange negative karma through the lower centers. Through the upper centers, they exchange positive karma. There's a song, and here I am, walking in Moscow. So I smile at everyone, I'm happy. Am I doing something wrong? No, I'm exchanging good karma with people. I am walking in Moscow, smiling at everyone. Just an ordinary summer rain. That means all is well. It's radiation-free rain. I believe in happiness, that everything is fine, everything is okay. In other words, I'm spreading happiness to everyone around me. What betrayal? Is there any betrayal? Why? I love everyone. I love them all. Suppose a woman is drowning, and I'm a married man. I see her. She's drowning. She's wet. Maybe even some parts of her body have become slightly visible. She's drowning, and I'm saving her. And suppose, unexpectedly, my wife sees me swimming with her, saving her. Would she think ill of me? What do you think? Would my wife think badly of me? I'm swimming, saving her, pulling her along, holding her. Would my wife think badly of me? No. What feeling would appear in her heart? What feeling? What would she see? She would see before her a man who is risking his life for another person. And she would say to herself, it's good that I live with this person. She'll look and think, it's good that I live with this person. I'm happy that I live with him. She'll make such a conclusion. because love begets love. Love, however it manifests, the exchange of love through the higher energy centers does not befoul life. It's not forbidden by law. There is very little self-interest in the higher energy centers. Higher forms of love are allowed in this world. But if I start to have an intimate relationship with someone else, what kind of relationship does that create? The lower are the centers of our body that we use, the more egoism, the more greed there is. And karma gets worse. Bad karma resides in the lower centers. A person exchanges bad karma with another person. They become tightly connected because a bond forms between two people as a result of intimacy. Therefore, these relationships are undesirable. That's why in the movie Gentlemen of Fortune, one character said, "Don't go there, come here, or you'll get beaten on your head. It'll hurt." Why did he stand there when others were throwing snow from the roof? Remember that movie, Gentlemen of Fortune? Because snow can indeed hit you on the head. That's why moral laws are created, so you don't get beaten on your head. There's nothing complicated about it. In school, I asked the teacher, why shouldn't we deceive? And she answered, because it goes against the moral code of the founders of communism. It was my first year at school, and I didn't understand what the moral code of the founders of communism meant. I didn't grasp what it meant in terms of deception. I wanted to know why we shouldn't deceive. I felt that we shouldn't but couldn't find out why. Only later did I understand that such actions just create bad karma, that's all. You know how deceit breeds bad karma? It's quite simple. You deceive someone, you establish certain relationships with them. These relationships change your view of the world. As a result, you start seeing people as potential deceivers. It's described in the Vedas. You look at them as deceivers, and therefore they will deceive you. If you view them as honest, they will act honestly with you. If you look at a border guard or a customs officer as just a customs officer, they will tell you, "Come here." If you look at them as a person, they won't pay you any mind. But if you have something forbidden in your pockets, then it becomes very hard to see them just as a person. You see them as a customs officer. And they say, "Come here." That's why people get caught. A thief can't hide their guilty feeling. Why? Because the perception of the world changes. So what's the problem in accepting that a close person who cheated just fell ill? What's the problem in accepting that? Thank you so much. Oh, I can't answer your questions right now, my dears. Do you want me to help you personally? Well, I am helping all of you personally right now. If you understand the principle, then the problem will be solved. Don't think it's a simple reaction. Dr. Torsunov, such a thing has happened. I tell you something, and suddenly it's resolved. It means you're treating life too superficially. Everything gets resolved if you understand what to do overall. If you want such simple interaction with me, like a piece of bread you bite into and feel satisfied. I want to give a way of life. I came here not to discuss specific situations. I once gave consultations to people until 2 in the morning. At some point I realized what I was doing. God simply gave me the knowledge in my heart of what I was doing. Look what I'm doing. I'm just allowing people not to work on themselves. Because the situation got resolved, everything's fine. Goodbye, Dr. Torsunov. Thanks for the consultation. But what's the goal? It should be the other way around. But this doesn't mean I won't answer your questions. I'll answer all questions after the lecture. I'll keep going as long as I have the strength. But now let's focus on learning. It's more important. So, what prevents understanding that he's just sick, this man who cheated? He's just ill. He committed an act that killed his reason. If a person commits a bad act, it kills reason within them. This person needs treatment. That's all. How to treat them? One who loves this person knows how to treat them. So who knows how to treat a person who cheats on you? You need to start by loving. The first rule is to love. That means you're already living selflessly for them. If you live selflessly for them, you'll see how you react when they cheat. What will the reaction be? There will be a calm reaction. Try to understand this. It will be calm and ordinary. We react to everything that exists in this world. A war started, it's normal. It ended, it's also normal. Someone asked me whether we would die in 2012. It was the year 2011. I said, of course, someone will definitely die, just like in 2013. Because this world is structured that way. It's structured so that such things happen. People die or fall gravely ill, and cheating is a severe illness. This disease is caused by ignorance. The word avidya translates, A means negation, vidya means knowledge. This disease is caused by ignorance. It arises because the person does not know the consequences of such an act. That's it. That's why they do it. There's no other reason for their actions. So why are you suffering from it so intensely? Why do you feel you cannot live anymore? Yes, it's a fact he needs treatment. He is your loved one. He needs to be treated. That's true. But why don't you know how to live on? What's the reason? The reason is that you haven't chosen the right goal in life, and God has shown you the result. Here is the result, look. What you considered your goal actually isn't worthy of being your goal. Why can't you treat this sick person normally? Because you yourself are not normal. You are sick yourself. You chose the wrong goal in your life and got the wrong result, that's all. This is the disease of intelligence. A person loses the thread of life. One has lost the thread of life and thinks everything is awesome. Another person has lost their thread of life and doesn't think everything is awesome. Who is healthier? The second one. The one who realizes something is wrong. They will be cured. But the one who thinks everything is fine, just awesome, then they will first have to realize that not everything is okay when they actually get the result. There are three forces that influence our destiny. This is described in allegories. If you choose this path, you'll lose your horse. This force is called life in perspective or life in passion. So how do we live? We believe that development in this world will help me, money will help me, having my own apartment will help me to become better. As the song goes, higher and higher, we aim the flight of our birds, and in each propeller breathes the immortality of our borders. The result of living in passion is the inflation of a person's egoism. Their boundaries become broader. I see such people when I board an airplane, and I have to pass through them first. It's called business class. The immortality of our borders. And they consider themselves very smart, so very smart. But in fact, they are not really smart. I just had to interact with a woman before the lecture, about 3 hours ago. She's a very prominent scientist, a doctor of sciences and so on, has many accolades. When I arrived, I saw the most humble person before me. In her eyes, the truth shines like two pure coals. I saw a real scientist. It's a rare case. I saw a real scientist. Such people exist in our country. I reveled in her gaze, in her purity, appreciating this communication. And I realized that there is purity in human life. There is purity. There are real scientists. There are also real businessmen, those who don't walk around as if they own the earth. A real businessman is one who understands that God gave them money to make people happy. Money is meant to enrich society, the country, to make everyone happy, not just to keep accumulating and accumulating. What next? What will happen then? The inevitable result follows, like an explosion. Look, I am becoming richer and richer. Then at some point, boom, an explosion occurs and the stench spreads throughout the city. Is this the meaning of life? Is this what we should live for? Is this why I live? The Vedas say money is meant to make everyone happy. There is no other purpose. If you don't use it for this purpose, you'll feel bad. You won't be happy. You'll have a lot of money, but it won't do any good in life. There's something higher than money. It's passion. When a person lives for money, one inevitably becomes proud. Because having money, it's very difficult to use it correctly. It's a complicated thing. You may lose your close friends. When a person lives in passion, one loses everything that surrounds them. What does passion do? It makes a person tough, harsh, with no free time, no time to talk with loved ones. The person works, earns. They only think of work and their turnover, work and turnover. All he does is work and make money. What's the result? The wife feels no love. The children don't feel their father. A person loses a horse, allegorically speaking. That means they lose their close people, their spouse and children. You see, businessmen, they are actually lonely people. Why? Because even if they have children, the kids want their money, not them. Dad is needed because he's wealthy. The wife also sees him as a source of money. There's no love. There are just money-related relationships, and that's all. It's passion. People in passion live like this. There's no happiness in such a life. What's there to strive for? This is degrading life. If you go down that road, your passion is just a child's play compared to a degrading life. Just honestly earning a living, becoming wealthy, becoming a successful person is not bad, because many good qualities are developed in this activity. But if you indulge in debauchery, if you get drunk like a pig, come home, there will be serious consequences. When a person lives such a life, they undoubtedly lose themselves. The first sign of such a loss is a change in values. In passion, People are ignited with a desire to move in this direction. You get a bit of luck at work, the money starts coming in, and off you go, crazy for it. That's passion. But when degradation enters life, a person loses understanding of things. If you drink a little, you'll lose the sense that alcohol is a dangerous thing. It won't seem like poison, a dangerous thing anymore. Drinking will become a natural thing. A little bit is allowed, even beneficial for health. It lowers cholesterol in the body, as some people say. The brain diminishes too, but nobody writes about that. Yes, if you drink little by little, a person can live many years. Life expectancy isn't reduced by small consumptions, but the strength of reason is diminished. The power of reason is not shown by how much money you make. The power of reason means the ability to feel conscience, to selflessly perform your duty towards people, to see a saint person before you, the ability to pray, the ability to comprehend the meaning of life, to understand that I am a soul and I have an eternal nature, to understand that I will have a next life. And if I live incorrectly, I will answer for it in the next life. This feeling that this is true is called the power of reason. It's a costly thing, and it doesn't arise from studying at school or in college, but it arises from deep relationships with a saint. Such power comes into the heart from such sublime relationships. Sobriety comes into life. You begin to understand how everything here is arranged and what happens. Immediately, the understanding of it comes into the heart. There's only one reason why I can't have a kind attitude to someone who cheated on me. It's because I never really loved them. Because now when they're gone off the rails, when they're in a tough situation in life, I couldn't care less. I'm just worried about the fact that we had a family. Everything was good, as the song goes. And now yellow leaves swirl over the city. Fate has changed. It changes on its own because the time comes. A bad astrological period arrived and that's it. Fate has changed. The time comes when a loved one cheats. It's just the result of fate's influence. Not that they really wanted to. And we all are under the influence of these forces in which we live. Who among you can avoid what's meant to be? Raise your hand, those of you who can avoid your fate. Only a madman would raise their hand. We don't know what will come. We don't know about what's meant to be. We don't know what to avoid. Because fate is not dependent on us. It stands behind us. The Vedas say it influences us from behind. Therefore, a person does not know what will happen in their life tomorrow. And maybe it will drive your loved one crazy. And who thinks that they will never go crazy? Raise your hand. That's also a sign of something. Nothing personal about you. You're a good girl. Thank you for coming to the lecture. Generally, it should be known that a sign of sobriety is the knowledge that at any moment I too could lose my mind. Recognizing this is a sign of intelligence. A wise person understands this and therefore fears these evil acts. Why does a person avoid committing these acts? Because they fear for their fate. Why don't they indulge in debauchery? Why don't they drink? Because they fear for their fate. They know that there is chaos. The power of degradation is a boundless force. It spares no one. There may be strong, reasonable people who might drink little by little their whole life, and their power remains with them. But there are others who are not like that. Mostly they are not. When does this evil spirit of merriment kill a person? When sorrow comes home. What is vodka? It's bitter. I'm talking about hard stuff. They drink it because they feel bitter. Sorrow has entered their life. When does a person become an alcoholic? When bitter fate arrives. We have a certain level of happiness in life that allows us to live normally. And in fact, we consider this happiness. Look, God gives us a certain feeling that everything is okay. They ask me, "Hello Oleg, how are things?" I say, "All good." This means the waterline, the life flow is okay, but it does not depend on me. But time comes, and the waterline, on a ship, it's the line of overloading or underloading. And this line, it's overloaded independently of us. Why does this happen? Because that's how fate acts. Right now, you definitely have an overload, not enough inner happiness. Why? Because that's how fate acts. Time comes and everyone experiences an overload. Everyone sitting in this hall will experience it. Why? Because all the happiness is over. It ends. It's gone. And during such times, you can live calmly. But for that, during the day, you need to spend a lot of time in prayer, in relationships with holiness, simply to survive. During this time, a person prays not for spiritual revelations, but simply because they connect with the source of happiness. and they survive in this way. But a person who doesn't know why and how to live at this time starts feeling very bad. Because all the time before this, they lived on doping. This feeling of happiness, everything is fine with me. It's just doping, which is given to us and then taken away at some point. Why is it taken away? To make us understand how we should live correctly. A human being isn't someone who should constantly use the energy of happiness. Always serve. Serve everywhere until the end of your days. Serve. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's my motto and the sun's motto. Or to shine. It's the same thing. Try to understand this. Truly, the happy one is the one who has learned to serve. This energy of selfless activity can be received only from those who are capable of it. It's phenomenal energy. In this world, it doesn't just manifest itself. You can't just seize it. Some think, oh, I always help everyone. You can't just grab this energy. It is transmitted only from God. It's a divine power. Therefore, only those people who live an inner life, who pray in the mornings, read sacred texts and worship them. To satisfy a saint person, their mentor, by reading sacred texts. And there is always a purpose. Keep an eye on the goal. I read the sacred texts for what? So my children are well. Or in order to find a job, get cured of an illness. You might as well close the book. It's a pointless pursuit. Reading sacred texts can only be done to satisfy the one who gave them to you. If you serve the sacred texts, you serve your mentor. I read only for you. I'm tired of living for myself. I'm fed up with living for myself. I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to do this for you. I want you to be happy. And I read the sacred texts for the saint person. And as a result, a drop of this energy of love appears in the heart. It gives the ability to correctly relate to the person who is ruining both their life and mine. They have now come into my life as an exam. Before, they also came as an exam. But we didn't know it. And now we know. Here they are, a close person with their deceitful face, completely marred by these affairs. With affairs that destroy the purity of human life. They cheated on you. If I truly love them, I see him just as a sick person. That's all. And how do I relate to them? Calmly. I'm calm in my heart. I'm keeping my distance at this time. I won't let my love be trampled. If they approach me and say they want to continue to build a relationship as before, they won't succeed. I take care of them, but I don't allow close relations. Why? Because my close relationships are precious. They are real relationships. They are not cheap relationships. And one says, well, then I'll just leave you. But everything that happens in my life doesn't depend on this person. They think they can control my fate now. No, my fate is controlled by God and the holiness that I serve. I say, do as you think is necessary. And they, when you speak such words, they won't be able to leave. Why? Because they don't have that strength. And if they can, then they are foolish. Goodbye. You see, love gives the opportunity to live humanely. That's why I am in such stress when I've been betrayed. Because there was no love at all. That's why the punishment is so harsh. The Lord always reveals the cards. Sooner or later, he will reveal them to everyone. That's the harsh punishment. You were cheated on. Why? Because there was no love at all. If there had been love, nobody would have cheated on you. You cannot cheat on love. Love cannot be betrayed. Love is stronger than life itself. If a person loves something, they bravely give their life for it. That's why people sacrificed themselves during World War II, for instance. If a person loves, they bravely give their life. They have no problem with life, because we have an eternal nature. People never die. Love cannot be trampled. It's impossible. We cannot trample true love. No one can betray someone who truly loves them. But if we were betrayed, it means there was no love. Because love breaks through all sins. This power has a spiritual nature. Our spiritual nature cannot interact with sins. It breaks through sins, reaches the very heart, and then gratitude arises there. And this gratitude says, I will not betray you, even though I want to. Gratitude cannot betray. It cannot betray. If a loved one cheated on you, it's okay. This is just a temporary stage of your relationship, of your personal development. In fact, we all cheat on each other. Let's consider the following. If a man enjoys his wife without true love, he goes out in the street, like a soldier walking down the street. As this song goes, a soldier is walking down the street and all the street is glowing with smiles of all the girls. Wouldn't he react to them? Raise your hand, who's not like this soldier who wouldn't react? Everyone would. When all the girls are beautiful, it's impossible not to react. You look at a girl, she's beautiful. Will there be a reaction? Of course. But if you love your wife, really love her, there will be a reaction, but it won't affect you. And if you don't truly love your wife, you're just enjoying her, then what will happen inside you? You enjoy being with your wife, then you see some girl. As the song goes, with a flying gait, you stepped out of heaven. And what happens? You start comparing them, who will please me more? Because there's no real love. You're just playing with feminine energy, you're just exploiting it. I am exploiting this one now. Which one can I exploit next? For more thrill. Oh, this one can be exploited better. I am not cheating on my wife. I'm just looking. But because there is no love, that look you gave her was cheating. You substituted one for the other. I love my wife, but with this one, I wanted more. I didn't go to her. I went back to my wife. But the cheating happened. And this often happens in our lives. Why? Because there's no real love. So, why worry now? Why worry about cheating if it is so common? Well, if we are not worried about it and think everything is okay, our development stops there. We remain at that level of consciousness. We have no love at all. Have you ever seen real love at least once? The scriptures say, if you want to see love, then look at the relationship between two dignified people. Look at how they interact with each other, and you will see love. When you see real love, you won't have any problems in life anymore. You need to see it to understand how to live and what to live for. And you won't be dissatisfied with what you have. If you realize that you're actually in first grade, then why think about getting a degree? You are in first grade, so focus on where you are now. The same concerns your personal development in relationships. My husband cheated on me, so what? We are simply still in first grade. Or he had too much to drink. That's okay. Wash him, put him to bed. You are still in first grade. How to move on to the second grade? I'll explain now. Look, it's all very simple. Now we're getting to the point. Please pay attention. There is a space that the human heart occupies, not the anatomical space, but the spiritual space of the heart. It's designed in such a way that all our loved ones reside there by the law of higher powers. Whether we want it or not, they are connected to us. For example, when my son is suffering, when something happens to a loved one, then my heart reacts, it gets anxious, right? Have you felt this in life? Anxiety strikes, you get a bad feeling. People react differently. Some just freeze up, become lethargic. Others know what to do in such cases. They turn to the source, to the sun, to the source of light, to the source of love, and they start to enter into a relationship with it. I want to live only for you. Please give me the opportunity to communicate with you, the supreme truth, O Lord. Please protect my love, protect my relationships, protect my loved ones. Give us the chance to develop. We are still too immature for this trouble. We can't cope with such a test of fate. We are not ready to lose each other. Not ready. Please help us evolve. Make us ready. Teach us supreme love, so we feel eternal relationships and aren't afraid of separation. That's how the prayer should be, and there will be a response, and protection will come as a result. My husband is unlucky at work. That means you are unlucky with your husband's job. He always gets fired, has many debts. What can I do to improve the situation? The answer is very simple. The same one. Your fate is harsh, so what can you do? Inner life changes fate. Inner life. Why do you think all the questions are on the same topic? They are all the same. There are two answers to all these questions. What are the two answers? What's the first answer? The first answer, accept your fate and you'll immediately feel better. Accept it. This is your fate. Have you heard of Viktor Frankl? He's a psychiatrist. During the Second World War, he was in a concentration camp. And what did he give people? He gave people an understanding of why to live and how to accept fate. Two things. When a person accepts their fate, it becomes easier for them to be in their situation. When they understand why they live, they survive. Accepting fate. What does it mean to accept fate in this situation? You need to understand that it's not that my husband is unlucky at work, but that I'm unlucky in this matter. It's my problem, not his. We always turn away from our problems. We don't want to accept our problems, and that's a problem. Today, my plane landed not where it should have, but in another airport, because there was fog. There was fog in the other one too, but they decided this way for some reason. And the whole plane was upset. Where did you take us? But you were the one who took yourselves there. Your fate landed you there. I was also upset at first. Later, when I thought about the issue, I realized that I was wrong in that situation. When we are immersed in our troubles, someone needs to tell us how to behave. Who has a lot of debt? You have a lot of debt. If it weren't really your problem, but your husband's, Why would you have written me this note? Another very important point. Often people wonder how they can help their child. But why do they need help? You start talking to your son. You ask him, how's life? He says, I'm doing great. Who needs help? Your son is fine. What does he need help with? He drinks, smokes, and sleeps around, but he feels good. He's fine. Who needs help? The one who is suffering. Why? Because that's their fate. That's your fate. You are suffering, so it's your fate. Understandably, your son also has his own fate, but he doesn't need help because he doesn't want to change anything. That means he doesn't need it. Only those who want to change can be helped. I have a different question. Why is this situation hopeless? What's the reason? The situation is hopeless because the son is not the one who needs to be helped. It should be understood who is tormented by fate. It's tormenting me. Therefore, I need to change something within myself. I am the one who needs to change. It's my fate that torments me, so I need to change. In childhood, my classmates and I used to play around. In the 2nd or 3rd grade, we were very silly. We used to tie 2 neighboring apartment entrance doors together with a construction strap. And we would ring the doorbells at both apartments. Both owners would then go to open the door. If only one of them had opened it, they could have figured out what was happening. But they both tried to open the doors, failed, couldn't understand what was happening, and started to argue. Eventually, they would start yelling at each other because they were both behind closed doors. Both were convinced that the other was at fault. It was very funny to watch. But what's the idea here? One of them just needed to close their door first. Then the other would have realized there was a rubber band and that someone needed to take it off. What's the idea here? Sometimes you just need to calm down. Not to help your son, but to calm down and figure out what's happening. Because all the situations that arise in our life are intended for only one purpose, which is what? What do you think? Yes, to change our fate, to change ourselves. The Vedic scriptures explain that the purpose of our birth is change, meaning we must pass our tests. We are born here and we try to be happy. And that's the mismatch between the situation we find ourselves in and our understanding of that situation. Here's the mismatch. We think we are born for happiness, but actually we are born to pass a test, because it is the one who passes the test who ultimately becomes happy. First thing to do is to accept your fate, and the second has already been mentioned. You need to start acting differently from how we usually act in this world. The Vedas explain that there's an external life where we react to external events, and there's an inner life where you realize that you must change your perception of your fate, your life. Inner life is contact with holiness. It changes everything in life. It changes the external life as well. If you start to purify your heart, what happens next? Here are the stages of change that will follow. First stage, you perceive the situation differently. For example, my husband is good, not bad. He's just tormenting me because that's my fate. You see, it's a totally different perception. The husband has become good, but I am the one who is destined to suffer. Next point, you start to react to him normally, but he doesn't know that he's tormenting you. He doesn't understand that he's the aggressive side, because that's how this world works. A person doesn't realize their own fault. People don't know their wrongdoings. We don't know what we did wrong. Who among you knows their faults in relationships? That's good. That means you're already changing your relationships. Everyone else isn't changing relationships yet. They don't know their faults. They think it's the other person's fault, their loved one. So, relationships won't change. When you know your drawbacks, you start to change relationships. That's it. You see, that's the key. A person must rise above. They must look at the world from a higher perspective. That means that they must start to have an inner life. That's why people prayed in ancient times. They spent a lot of time in prayer. Why is this necessary? So that you can see the people around you, yourself, and your fate differently. Differently means looking at others and thinking that the people around you are good. My fate is tough. And it's right. It's all good. It's not bad, it's good. Because if it were easier, I would become completely shameless. But my ill fate as it is now somehow keeps me in check. It restrains me in life. But the most amazing thing is that when a person behaves this way, their fate becomes lighter afterwards. People around you change. They start to react to you differently because you are already behaving differently with them. Even if we take modern psychology, one of the most progressive approaches is when you communicate through messages formulated not with you, but with I. For instance, you want to say something to someone, and instead of saying, Why did you throw my kitten out the door? And adding the word sadist. You say, it hurts me to see what happened. So, you're not accusing them, but expressing your pain. And how will they react? They hear the message. They ask, it hurts you? Sorry, and start to explain why they did what they did with the kitten. Because the kitten has been peeing in their shoes for a week, and they say it hurts them too because they have nothing else to wear to work. The shoes can't be cleaned, and their boss said they'd be fired if they kept smelling like that, so that's why they did it. Immediately, contact is established. But to take this step, you have to stop seeing this person as the cause of your problems. Otherwise, you can't talk to them using iMessages. It's impossible. You'll have to accuse them. So, to stop seeing someone as the cause of your problems, what do you think is needed? There's this one amazing thing many don't know about. What's needed?
Wish them happiness?
No, that's the consequence. Wishing them happiness is the consequence. Praying is also a consequence. You probably can't answer this. Sometimes you ask such a question that no one can answer. And you look so cool because you know everything and everyone else knows nothing. I'll explain it to you now. Look, it's very simple. Why do we get angry at someone close to us? Because they're the object that's supposed to give me happiness. And because they don't give me happiness, I start demanding happiness from them. And that's why I get angry. Sometimes when a person nearby is totally unreasonable, some person on the TV can become the source of happiness. We sometimes behave this way. Then we end up like in that comedy sketch, where there's a weather forecast on TV and a drunk man is sitting in front of it. And he says, I don't need the weather in Chicago, I want to hear about the weather in New York. And he starts to argue with the TV. The TV host is telling the weather forecast on TV and he tells her what he needs from her. Why? Because this is of high importance to him. He wants to experience happiness from this person who is on TV. But often we also behave like the weather lady because our loved ones don't hear us. Because everyone wants their own happiness. We don't really want to know what our loved one wants. We only want to talk about the weather bit that we want to hear. Now listen carefully. The reason for this is that we start to believe in things that fundamentally cannot bring us happiness. It's a substitution of values. The main reason for all problems in our lives is this substitution of values. A person should believe in holiness and simply serve those close to them. And through such selfless service, without desiring any rewards, a person also receives happiness from those close to them. If I take care of someone close to me, they will be grateful in any case. That's assuming I don't nag them afterwards. Let's say a wife prepares a meal and sits watching her husband eat, hoping for certain words of appreciation. The husband will choke on the food. Why? Because he realizes what is expected of him. Such an exchange does not lead to happiness. That's why in ancient cultures, people were taught from childhood to aim for higher goals, that we need to have higher aims in life. We live for God, and we take care of those who are close to us. Then everything becomes clear. God has punished me, and my close ones embody this punishment in life. I have to take care of them. It's my duty, my expression of love. Again, the concept of love is greatly distorted in modern culture. People used to know that love means to take care. Now love means something else entirely. Many people think that love is when certain oscillations occur. If there's a vibratory process, it means love. Love has acquired a mechanical nature for us now. It's become mechanical. But love turns out to be the highest expression of us as individuals. This expression has a completely selfless nature. It should be so. It means the true love in a family is only born after many years. There's a psychologist, Alioshina, living in America. There are now many such talented people. She researched relationships in marriage and found that there is a decline for the first 14 years of marriage, and relationships deteriorate. Then they begin to improve. It's like a U-shaped curve in relationships. First it's good, then bad, then even worse. Then, after we've gone through a certain crisis in relationships, they start to improve. What's at the bottom point? There lies the thought, there's no chance I can be happy with this person. But why do I stay with them? Because we have children, we have a lot in common. And from that moment on, what attitude remains towards this person? Taking care is the only thing left. You start to take care of them, and love begins. As a result, it goes upward. As long as we expect something from a loved one, it goes downhill. As soon as we start taking care, expecting nothing in return, relationships begin to improve. Just like that, the curve shifts direction. Often it takes people more than 10 years to understand this. Basically, we can't expect anything from each other. Because when two people enjoy each other's presence, they can't really be happy. Because when someone enjoys you, you can't be happy. For a while, you can be happy because you enjoy them too. But the presence of a person who doesn't love you but enjoys you isn't fundamentally a source of happiness. People often realize after 10-15 years that they actually don't need each other, that they just use each other, and then life becomes miserable for them. We need to understand that this whole world is woven from such people. We all just want to use others. We don't want to help anyone. Therefore, in this world, there isn't what we're all waiting for and searching for. If a person begins to operate in a higher realm and connects their consciousness with those who are not using others, this is a higher level of consciousness. When a person helps everyone, it means they have a spiritual nature. They are spiritual people. In this case, undoubtedly the relationship with a close person changes. Because if love is manifested in one person, it begins to manifest in the other too. It's impossible not to respond to love. Gratitude is that response. A person cannot but respond. For all questions about healing, we have free health consultations on our website. Ask there. In July, I found out my husband had an affair a year and a half ago. We have a 10-month-old daughter. He wants to stay in the family. We have 2 kids. I'm under stress. Help. He keeps talking about unconditional love that I must accept. We all want someone to accept unconditional love. He loves both her and me, but with different kinds of love. Let's start from a different angle. This is a good question, right on topic. Today we're talking about loyalty and respect in the family. Let's start completely anew. I like this question. Let's pause here for a moment. So suppose I've reached this point of understanding what love is. Who among you understands what it means to love someone close? Raise your hand. You understand. Do you have happiness in your family? 2 happinesses, what does that mean? You do? If so, it means the person understands. So what's the idea? Look, if I expect nothing from a loved one and just want to take care of them, what do we call this feeling? Love always means selflessness. This feeling can be called by different words. These are different stages of love. The first is called a sense of duty. You might say, a sense of duty sounds unappealing, Dr. Torsunov. How can one live like that, with a loved one out of a sense of duty? There's no pleasure in it, but it's love, and it gives entirely different things. What are we waiting for? I look at the object of my love and what happens inside me. There's a song, it feels good to be with you, whether it's a snowstorm or a heavy rain, right? So a feeling like that arises inside. Then it means we can keep living. But that's not love. Love means being able to do something for someone without expecting anything in return. And you might ask, how then should we live at all? Where is happiness? Shouldn't I have some happiness? That's the whole point. We don't even understand how this system works. That in fact exchange can only arise as a result of such relationships. Let's remove love for a moment. Those are very strong feelings between a man and a woman. And let's take a simpler love, like friendship. Would you continue to be friends with someone if you knew they wanted something from you? But then it wouldn't be friendship. It turns into a business relationship. There are different kinds of friendship. For example, going to the movies together. Simply enjoy life together. In this case, if I have no joy in life, would my friends still go to the movies with me? That means it's a friend. If one goes out of a sense of duty, if it's not joyful for them to be with you, but they go to the movies with you, that means it's your friend. Truly, a friend is known when there is no happiness in times of trouble. But how often does it happen in life? We just start to see a person differently. We look, and they aren't really friends after all, right? A completely different situation arises when you realize this in a relationship with someone who you consider not just a friend, but you consider them the closest people to you on earth. Here, a completely different situation arises. This deception is much harder to bear. Because what does the deception consist of? In fact, only those who truly understand what love is can be close. The Vedas explain that the purpose of human life is the realization of the truth. One must understand what the truth entails. The first truth we must understand involves these forces that make us relatives and the sense of kinship they evoke. They don't ask us whether we want to believe in these relationships or not. People just start building close relationships, and this is how it works in this world, that very close, deep connections arise between a man and a woman. A feeling arises that this person is more precious to me than my own life. This feeling, according to the Vedas, is of an illusory nature. Not that you don't feel they are more precious. You feel they are more precious to you in life. It's real. You truly feel that this person is the most valuable thing in the world. The problem is that they can never give you what you want from them. Because when I believe in someone, belief is a feeling that needs to be adequately reciprocated. For example, there's a holy person. They have a disciple. Who is a holy person? Someone who lives for God, not for themselves. They interact with a selfless, pure force. As a result, being in pure relationships, they become pure themselves. Because in the situation in which we live in ordinary relationships, this is impossible. Because we all have a selfish nature. We build relationships with each other and purity does not increase within. Because in these relationships, we can't give anything selflessly to each other. Each of us wants to enjoy the other person. But if a person builds a relationship with God, it's a completely different situation. The disciple builds a relationship with his teacher. They serve him, love him, and believe in his teacher. Let's say the teacher is truly a holy person. This disciple, will they be disappointed? If they don't insult this holy person but serve him, they will become more and more like him. Why? Because love is a force that changes a person. That means when you love someone, you become like them. There's a song, a dog show, no, it's a show of dog owners, and a video. A fluffy dog is walking and a person is walking next to it. They really do look alike. Such a video was made. Let's say people live together. They'll look alike in 10 years, right? In a family, people resemble each other. They look similar. Why do people become similar? Because love makes them similar. So a person loves a holy person. They become exalted eventually. But let's say, if my greatest value is holiness in life, a holy person, can I give something to a loved one or not? There's one interesting condition. They are not as close to me as to everyone else. They're close too, but not in the same way. I perceive this closeness as something given by God, that God gave us the opportunity to connect in this life. But this doesn't mean that this person who is next to me holds all my hopes. I shouldn't rely all my hopes on them. At any moment, they can fall ill with a serious disease. I might have to sit by their bedside. At any moment, they might even die, as people cry out, "Why did you leave me alone?" They didn't give birth to themselves. They didn't take themselves out of this world. They don't know why it turned out this way. But they hear all this, because in the subtle energy body, the connection between people remains. You see what madness we live in. We start to believe in a close person, not to trust them, not to care for them, not to understand that this person is given to me so that I might take care of them, but to believe in them. This is already something that breeds terrible things. Look, let's say I believe in my husband. Let's say I'm the wife, and he cheats on me, like in this note. What is the result? If you've chosen the wrong object for your faith, what will be the result? A person's life breaks. Their life thread is lost. They start to feel that there's no reason to live. It's a terrible situation. Those who've experienced it know what it's like. Every person in their life will experience it at least once. Why? Because this life is given to us to change our understanding of faith. Faith is not a cheap thing. Our faith shapes faith itself. A child is born, I believe in them. We don't even care whether it's good or bad to believe in the child. Imagine a child becomes an object of faith. What does that mean? It means they consider themselves God. They're foolish and irrational. One will believe in themselves exactly as their mother believes in them. The result, they start to grow up as egoists and begin to exploit her love. In other words, they start to torment her. But there is another way. It doesn't mean that children should always behave this way. If you believe in God but serve your child, because you feel that your child is very close, this means that I should serve him. And what does serving a child involve? Raising them to be a good person. And this means often denying their requests. Strictness is the highest expression of love. Often people think that strictness is a sign of lack of love. No, it's the opposite. There's a lower expression of love, that's care, and a deeper care, that's strictness. But strictness doesn't mean anger. You're strict because you want to help, not because you dislike the person. This is already a higher level of love. Many even don't know that. In our culture nowadays, it's considered that you can't be strict with children at all. Juvenile justice steps in. Because people are so degenerating now. They don't understand that it's strictness that breeds real people. Because people used to believe in God, and they could be strict, because they had a different source of faith. And a child, that's an object of care. Now, a child is a source of faith, and so we either love them or hate them. If the source of faith brings me happiness, I love it. If the source of faith brings me suffering, what do I do with it? I hate it. But if it's just a child who lacks intelligence yet, whether they bring me happiness or suffering, I just take care of them because I have a different, higher source of faith. This is called rational existence. What I'm talking about now. But it's very hard to reach it. For this, you have to work hard on your consciousness. That's the essence, the meaning of our life. So questions of loyalty and respect in the family, that's the goal of our talk today. The letter I read served as a topic for this conversation. So a woman's been left by the man she loves. She doesn't know how to live. She's in terrible stress. And right away there's a question. Is this good or bad? What do you think? At first it seems good, so let her stay in stress. Some might think, good for her, she loves, so she's stressed. If we delve deeper into this issue, then stress is a sign of not understanding what a relationship between a husband and wife should be. If there's no understanding, stress occurs. And why do you think it? Because we loved each other and were faithful to each other. An immediate simple answer comes up. Are you sure you loved each other? If I enjoy my wife, do I love her or not? I'm just enjoying her, that's all. That's not love. Even if you consider my desire to do something nice for her. Why do men court a woman? So she would smile. And the response comes, good. She smiled. Just like in the song, because you simply smiled at me. Why, oh why does it feel so good? Because you just smiled at me. Indeed, it feels good because she simply smiled. To achieve that, a man is ready to do everything for her. A young man wrote a note. Dr. Torsunov, I disagree with you. I have truly fallen in love with this young lady selflessly. I don't need anything from her. Even if she marries someone else, I won't be upset. I love selflessly. My response to him was very stern. I said, can you love an old woman selflessly? Can you take an old woman as your wife just like this girl? If you are so selfless? He was taken aback. I shocked him. He started thinking. At first he didn't understand. Why should I love an old woman? What's the matter, Dr. Torsunov? Don't you respect me? I respected him. I just wanted his reason to be activated. To help him see that if you love a young woman, it's not selfless. It means you want to enjoy life, not take care. You see how simplistic our feelings are. We want to enjoy. The idea of taking care is far from our minds. If we want to enjoy each other, why do we think we love each other? It has nothing to do with love at all. At some point in any family, the feeling of happiness from a loved one inevitably ends. She's still beautiful, everything's the same, but the thrill is gone. There's a feeling that somehow the heart doesn't sing anymore. And what to do? Most often, a person either leaves or suffers. A person keeps suffering for a year, 2 years. They feel no happiness. They already have children together. A person keeps suffering. And then he sees a brisk gait of some beautiful girl. He sees happiness. Then his mind is blown. I have a different love for you. My love is different for you and for her. For her, it's unconditional love. For you, it's conditional. It's all primitive. Even just enduring is also primitive. You need to sober up, understand that the person next to you is a gift from God, given to you to take care of them. This care will breed true love, the kind of love that is real between a man and a woman. There's true love between a man and a woman. Real love happens when there's a love object that recharges this love. When a man and a woman interact, they recharge each other with selfishness. When a person interacts with holiness, they are charged with love. If people lack faith, don't pray, don't read spiritual books, have no spiritual mentor, and lack sacred scriptures in their life, they have nothing to charge them with purity. Where will they get it? We don't have purity around us in life. There are no objects of purity that would allow us to love. We have such a possibility in our hearts. It's unmanifested because there is no example. It sleeps within us. As the Vedas say, the ability to love is dormant. We can sincerely live for a loved one and experience love from them, because they will have to be grateful. When a person experiences true love from someone close, they can't help but respond. It penetrates directly into the heart and evokes other feelings. It doesn't evoke sexual attraction, it evokes a feeling of gratitude. That's a very exalted feeling. There's a song, I believe in you, my dear friend. This faith saves me from death in the dark night. Only bullets whistle across the plain, only the wind hums in the wires. What's the idea? True love manifests when death is near. The woman doesn't sleep and secretly sheds a tear by the crib. She saves a person from death. The Vedas explain that love protects a person from death, because the purpose of human life is to achieve true love. When a person attains true love, there is no need to die. Fortune comes into their life. They must continue to live. If one has reached this, they must share this love with others, must care that it does not extinguish. First, we need to understand why stress arose. The Vedas explain that stress arises when a person loses their life thread. One believed in something, considered it the object of their love, and then this object of love betrayed them. What's the result? There's no reason to live. What is stress? A person doesn't know why to live. When a person sees no reason to live, they start to die slowly inside. The soul always wants to live, but in fact, in this world, it does not. There's a terrible contradiction, a horrible contradiction in which a person can't stay. One can't sleep, eat, or function normally. One should live, but you can only live for something. A person can't live just for themselves. We have a submissive nature, but we consider ourselves enjoyers. In fact, we are not enjoyers. We're supposed to provide enjoyment. Who among you can live in emptiness? Not for someone else, just in emptiness. Raise your hands. Only one person here is God, and all others are subordinates. Why? Because we can only live by giving love. Someone must be the object of love. We can't live for ourselves. Our nature is unselfish. The contradiction is this. From childhood, we want to live for ourselves. Give a child something in their hand, they will clench it. If you take it away, they will scream. The grasping reflex stays for life. We want everything for ourselves. A man says, my dear has different meanings. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much and see you soon.